All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of O365A. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some of the new impactful end user changes that are coming or have dropped in Microsoft Teams. So we thought, that these features are large enough that we'd want to cover a session on them. And these features, they require some changes to maybe your documentation or some end user adoption and training from an organization perspective. So, Michael, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, I'm taking on the online meeting experience, and I think this is the brunt of the user impact from a change management perspective. So when we think about organizations building out like quick start guides or how-to guides or training materials, recorded sessions, all the content that they've been generating over the last few months to enable their users. We're seeing that these changes are going to change those screenshots and those recordings. So the first one is the pre-join meeting experience. So Microsoft is refreshing this UI so that it's a little bit easier to know to turn off the audio if you're in a room with other devices, being able to bring your meeting rooms, like your Microsoft Teams rooms, into the experience, setting your volume controls at that pre-join experience window. And then, kind of going into the ability to set your background, your background filter, if it's blur or something else, and having that default the next time you join. So some improvements on that experience, but these are changes for your users. Some of the other changes, this has been in preview for a little bit, and end users are able to go into their Teams meeting or Teams settings, go under General, and check the little box that says Turn on the new meeting experience. And this will have like the pop-out window for meetings and calls. This is going to be becoming the default, so there won't be a checkbox going forward. This will be just what everyone gets. So IT has had that ability to update some training material and see what this is going to look like, but this is rolling out in September to all users. And so the big changes, when you're telling users, when to mute and how to share content, that floating meeting bar is going to be docked at the top instead of kind of floating in the middle. So again, user training that is going to be impacted with this new experience. Some other features that are also being released and, having to train your users where to find them, things like together mode, the 7x7 video grid, Spotlight was announced on the Microsoft Teams blog, I think on the 31st, and then being able to do like hard mute in the education space and having the ability to have like incoming video in the Safari browser, I think version 12 or 13 and greater. So a lot of improvements, but these are a lot of changes. One of the big announcements that's coming, and I believe this is in October, is the breakout rooms. So again, how are you going to train your organizers to structure these breakout rooms and move attendees between the rooms and kind of manage that or moderate that? So again, a lot of training that's going to have to be generated or videos for those users. And then improvements on just the manageability of Teams meetings. So, the meeting options, being able to set who can bypass the lobby, who can present, more options are becoming available so that you can really control the security settings of that meeting experience. One thing I want to just kind of throw out there is there is a new option within the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. If you go under the Message Center, there is now an option to do planner syncing. So as we're talking about a lot of change, there is ability now to suck these changes into something like Planner and assign it to your change management team or your trainer. So a lot of changes, but Microsoft is trying to make that so that your other teams outside of IT are aware of these changes coming for your users. Maybe I'll throw it over to Kurt to talk about the changes within the collaboration side.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So yeah, there's some pretty significant changes that are close to or are rolling out in regards to channels and apps. So let's start with channel information. When there's something called Teams channel messages. So today that's when like a user joined a channel or left a channel, you see a chat message posted to the channel. There's a lot of feedback from users and customers that these system messages just sort of caused a lot of noise. People didn't want them in the regular general channel chat log. So they are moving out of the chat messages into the channel information, which is a little eye icon in the upper right-hand corner when you click on a channel. And that'll be really good. That'll clean up all these system messages and they'll be less visible and sort of out of the way. That should be rolling out in September, so coming really, really shortly. Another one was to start a meeting in a channel, which starts a meeting for all the members in the channel. This was a bit hidden before. You had to start a new meeting and then select the channel. So this has moved to a much more convenient, visible location. And many people have probably already seen this. It's rolled out, at least for me and all my public tenants. There's now a meet button in the upper right-hand corner when you're focused on any channel. So that's really convenient, makes it easy to just spin up a meeting for all members of a channel. On the collaboration apps in Teams, there was an announcement quite some time ago about a new cohesive task management experience in Teams. That's scheduled to start rolling out really shortly now, and it's a new Teams app called Tasks. And really, this is a rebranding of the Planner app in Teams. And it'll consolidate tasks across Planner, Microsoft To Do, and even Outlook tasks, which is really great. So this gives like a cohesive combined experience of personal tasks and Teams tasks in one app. And this integrates again with whatever tasks you had in Planner. And, it can be used by managers to, easily track activities for first line workers in their retail stores, project planning, and again, it's available on mobile devices and desktop, so that'll be available shortly. On the new Lists app for Teams, this is interesting. If you're a fan of lists and use lists to track basically anything from issues to assets to contacts to inventories, there's going to be a new Lists app available. You can add it as an app in any channel from the tab gallery, and you can build lists from scratch, or there's going to be built-in templates which have a predefined list structure, form layouts, and formatting options. And you can also bring in lists from an existing SharePoint site, or you can import lists from Excel. You can actually export lists to an Excel workbook. That Lists app is available as a web app today. But there's a targeted release coming for the Teams Lists app early or mid-September, and I think they're targeting general availability for mid-October. So that'll be available to your end users. Advertise that it's available. A lot of businesses, it's a surprising number of scenarios that are just built on list management. So that'll be a big one. And then finally, there's a new file share experience coming to Teams, and basically, anywhere you click on a file and go to share it in Teams, you'll get the same sharing experience, and in fact, the same sharing dialogue as you do in OneDrive and SharePoint, which is great. That's a nice, consistent experience across those apps. And that was supposed to be rolled out, available this month and rolling out next month. So that'll hit your tenants really quick. So that's it from a collaboration and channel perspective. Habib, what big changes do you see coming?
Yeah, so one of the big ones is the network device interface, or NDI. So basically, what this allows you to do is, first, I guess, it allows you to pull different streams from within a Microsoft Teams meeting and sort of build like a custom display for, for meetings or live events that you want to publish to. So for instance, it's a bit of a more of an advanced set of production options, for public or private or high scale productions or broadcasts. So there's tools like OBS Studio, Wirecast, XSplit, or Streamlabs And then it provides you the ability to, either just pull the primary or active speaker, individual streams, or the shared desktop, and then you can pull that information into one of these tools, and then maybe even push it into another Teams meeting that other people are joining, so you have a nice display of what you're trying to do. So there's a couple of different ways that you need to enable this. First, you have to go into the Microsoft Teams meeting policy and enable NDI there. And then once the policy trickles down to the end user, then you have to turn that feature on from the end user perspective. So it's giving a lot more ability from that, broadcasting capability and taking the stream. So that was really cool. And that is already available today. So the next one is the new notifications screen. So right now, the current view is you have the ability to set your notifications by mentions or messages or other, and they're broken down in there. But in the new view, it actually has quite a bit of functionality in there. So you can turn off the ability to have the missed activity emails. You can have all activity or mentions, or even create custom notification settings, which you can be applied to chats, meetings, people. So when you follow somebody's status, or maybe some other things like recommendation tips and stuff like that. So that's one there. So one thing you might want to consider is updating the user documentation from that side of things, because that will definitely be a huge user adoption change, at least from the UI perspective, for your end users. So that one, I believe, is coming next month in September, based on what the roadmap says. And next up is templates. So this one is pretty huge as well. Working with organizations that create a lot of teams. Being able to have templates already pre-configured for the end users just to select from it would be great. So you'd be able to basically create a template where you can assign channels, tabs, and apps. And then when you create a template, you can say, okay, create from an existing template or create a new template, and then you can customize it if you have that ability there. And then if I'm creating a new team from an existing template, I still have the ability to select if it's going to be a private team or a public or an org-wide one, and then give the ability to, change the name, description, and I can even customize the channel names before the team is created. So that was kind of cool to see that. So that'll be a good one there. And again, from an end user adoption perspective, it's going to be a different way of creating a team and some of the different functionality. So you might want to update the adoption, or maybe create a video when that releases, so that you can train your users. And last one is on the Power Automate side. So be able to have new message actions. So there's integration with Power Automate now, where you can create different Power Automate flows that will trigger based on certain things. For instance, if you can create a flow, if there's a message inside of the channel, I can just click on the 3 dots over to the right, and I can say send to OneNote, because that may be a flow or Power Automate that I created, or create a task from that particular message. And then there's certain additional functionality. If you have Azure DevOps or you're using Dynamics, you can create the workflows to utilize there. So that's an interesting feature as well. So, and that's it for me. So I'm going to pass it over to Dino.
Yeah, thanks, Ab. I'm going to start us off with MTR updates. So we have a couple of new Microsoft Teams Rooms updates. First off is coordinated meetings, and that one is a feature where if you have one or more Microsoft Teams Rooms devices in the same meeting room, you can set up what's called coordinated meetings. So say, for example, you have a Poly MTR and a Surface Hub in the same room. You can set up coordinated meetings, which allows you to have both of those devices join the meeting at the same time. So you might think, hey, that's not a good idea. You're going to get like audio feedback and whatnot. But what it allows you to do is coordinate these devices so you can choose which one's going to give you your default audio, which one's going to do video. This way you can configure the best of all the devices for the one meeting experience. So that's kind of neat. It'll be interesting to see that feature unfold and see the use cases for that. Next up for MTR is we have the ability now to join Cisco WebEx meetings from Microsoft Teams rooms with something called direct guest join. So basically, you've been invited to a WebEx meeting, you forward that to an existing Microsoft Teams meeting room, and when you walk into that meeting room, the join experience is there on the front of room panel, so you can join that WebEx meeting right from your MTR device. So that's a super welcome feature as well. I'm going to move away from MTR and move into the Teams calling experience and the Teams client. We've got a new calling experience that's gives you the ability to merge calls in the Teams client. So you can merge several calls that into a one-to-one call or a group call, and this applies to VoIP calls and to PSTN calls. So we had this feature in Skype for Business where you needed to merge several calls together, you could, and it's really nice to see that make it to Teams. Next, I'm going to move to what's new in Microsoft Teams phones. So these are the standalone VoIP desktop phone devices that are available for Teams today. So the UI has been really completely redesigned to optimize the user experience, and it's really quite nice. Like, it's quite a bit of a difference from the first generation of the software running on these devices. So now we've got a whole new redesigned UI on the phone. I think it's pretty good. We've got a new home screen with meeting reminders, so giving you up-to-date information about your calling and meeting activity, so you can see what's upcoming in your current meetings that are going on. You have detailed information about your call history, calendar. They're just a click away, so really like that. You can also optimize the screens to be portrait or landscape, depending on the type of device you have. Some are better suited for landscape mode, for example. They're also allowing you to customize quick access to apps on these devices. So if your tenant admin allows for user pinning in applications, which means you can sort of drag and drop the apps the way you want to see if you don't want to see certain things, you can do these on the phones now. So for calling heavy users that do a lot of calls, they can focus on the calling app and make that front and center on the home screen. For people that are more meeting intensive, they can have the calendar app default on the home screen. So really nice to be able to customize that. And speaking of calling, in the calling app, users can customize what they see in the calls app. So currently the default view shows the speed dial. So if you've got a lot of speed dial set up, but if you have, for example, a phone that doesn't have the hardware keys for speed dials, you might prefer to just see the dial pad in your view. So they give you some choices around customizing the default view for calls. And next up, for phones that are enabled for video, so these are, let's say the Yealink VP59, for example, that has a camera on it. You can support meeting nudges. So if there's a meeting about to start and you get the join request, it'll automatically accept incoming meeting join requests for scheduled meetings. So, you know, it's a useful feature in a telehealth scenario where you're constantly, you might be a doctor and you're taking meetings on a call on these devices, so you can have the ability to have these phones auto accept the meeting and join requests come in. And lastly, on these devices, some of the new ones are coming out with a dedicated Teams button. So when you press that button, it'll quickly launch the home screen and bring you back into the calling app. So the first generation of these devices didn't have them. I think if you've seen a lot of the pucks or these other Teams enabled devices, they all have that purple Teams key. So now they've started incorporating these on these devices as well. And that's it for me. I'll pass it back to you, Hab.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, I think you know, as we've been working with a lot of our clients, we see some of the I wouldn't say struggles, but some of the things that, you know, they've been looking for some of these enhancements that are going to be dropping. I think they're going to be utilized heavily moving forward. I know that, you know, there was a lot of my customers love that new meeting experience, the pop-out capabilities and stuff like that. And I think just that pre-join screen is just going to enhance it even more as well. So I think that's it's really good. But good chat as always, and thanks everyone for listening in, and hopefully we'll catch you on our next episode.
Thanks.
Thanks.